When we talk about a quadratic function, there is always a vertex and an axis of symmetry.
Can you turn off the lights, please?
Yeah, we can turn off one. Will somebody do that? And so, because it's parabola, the vertex is where the line of symmetry goes through. Okay? Now, once we have the line of symmetry and the vertex, we can basically graph our function rather easily. So, let's consider the following function. 6x minus 3x squared minus 5. Well, now the textbook purposefully doesn't put this in what Mr. Adams calls descending order or standard form. And so, let's do that. Let's start with the highest degree, put that first, then the second highest, and then the constant. Now the reason we do that is because we've gone through, not me personally, but a lot of other smart mathematicians, they've gone through, and I don't know why I just wrote that down twice, they've gone through and established patterns and formulas that we can use that are helpful when we run over the same types of problems over and over again. So the standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. And there's some things that we could do to figure out vertex and axis of symmetry and stuff like that. And so this is one form, and then the other form, this is known as the standard form of a polynomial. And so we would say that a is the leading coefficient, which is -3, b is 6, and in this case c is equal to -5. Now what that means is that when we think of the vertex, we usually think of the vertex as the minimum or maximum. That's a K. It's a really ugly K, but that's a K. The vertex is where the minimum or maximum occurs on the parabola. And so h is the x value of that vertex. So we would say that h, when it's written in the standard form, is always going to be equal to negative b over 2a. So what this means is, if I plug in 6 over 2 times -3, I get -6 over -6, which is 1. So that means my vertex, the x value at least, will be at 1. So then, how do I find the y value, right? Because it's x, we say hk, and I'll show you why in a second. But really, these are xy's, right? This is the ordered pair xy of where the vertex will be on the graph, and we'll graph it, and I'll show you in a second. Well then, what I need to do to find the corresponding y value, when x equals 1, the y value is going to be -3 times 1 squared plus 6 times 1 minus 5. Right? So I'm just going to plug in the 1. Wherever there's an x in the original function, I'm going to plug in a 1. So that gives me -3, because 1 squared is 1 times -3. 6 times 1 is +6, and then we have -5. So I've got, what's the answer, -2? So this is where the vertex occurs. It's either a minimum or a maximum. It's a maximum in this case because my leading coefficient a is negative. Do you guys know that? Do you remember that from your Algebra 2 days? So that means my parabola looks something like this, and I would have a maximum. How do I know the parabola is upside down? Because a is negative. Alright. So that must mean this is also where the axis of symmetry occurs. So what does this mean? I'm going to sketch it by hand, and then we'll do it on a graphing calculator in 2 seconds. This means that I have a line of symmetry at x equals 1. It also means that I have a maximum at the point 1, 2. Okay? Now, because I have a negative leading coefficient, this thing's going to flip down like this. Now, the only thing they're asking us to find is the line of symmetry and the vertex. Okay? That's all they're asking us to do at this point. Oh, it was negative 2, wasn't it? Okay, so that's not where it goes. It goes down here. 1 comma negative 2. Now, it's kind of funny because when Mr. Adams does these videos, if you notice, every once in a while I'll have a mistake. But how often do I finish the whole problem without catching the mistake? I still do that once in a while, right? But you've got to get in the frame of mind where you try to look for your mistakes and see if you got to develop that habit too when it comes to doing math. Always going back and double checking things. So let's graph this and see how close we are. I'll use the regular TI calculator just to kind of show you guys. Now, Mr. Adams uses the older one because some of you guys have older calculators. So the screen might look a little different on yours. If it does, just let me know. So we want to graph the function negative 3x squared plus 6x minus 5. There it is. What do you think the value of x equals 1 is? Negative 2, right there at the vertex. Okay. So graphically what this looks like is like this. Okay. Any questions?